Zhen Yonghong from Tongkai University. So I think it's time to start the first round. So let's start from introducing yourself. So let's start from Walter.
Hello everyone, we're Team Computing Program at National Experimental High School, and hope you will have a nice time in this basic class. Thank you.
We're Wi-Fi from National Hualien Girl High School, and I'm the captain Jennifer, and this is Lai Zhen, Lu Pei, Mei Keqin, and Zhang Ziyun. Hope you have a good time. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the captain from Team Unity. I'm Zhen Yinghua, and he's Hong Zhuanyi. He is weird, and he is Jian Zhenqi, and he is Liang Yaozong. Thank you.
Turn to introduce our two. Since I already introduced myself, so let's go.
I'm Yinghua from NTNU. Thank you.
Zhang Yijun from NTNU.
I'm Zhang Peixun from NTNU.
I'm Hu Shufen from NTNU.
Okay, now opponent, you have 1 minute to try this report.
Number 14.
14.
Wait for it.
Wait for the preparation. We accept the challenge.
Good morning, everybody, and gentlemen, and all the debaters. I'm a member of TYPT, so my name is Jun Yuguang, and I'm going to report about experiment number 14, comprehensive. And this is my outline. First, I will have an introduction about this phenomenon. Then, I will have an observation video, and I will have a theory to fit this phenomenon, and I will have an experiment to prove my theory, and I will have the conclusion. First, connect two leads, one heavy and one light, with a string over a horizontal rod and lift up the heavy load by pulling down the light rod. Release the light load and you will sweep around the rod, keep the heavy load from falling to the rod. Investigate this phenomenon. So this phenomenon is light load will sweep around the rod and keeping the heavy load from falling to the rod. And this is my observation video. As you can see, the heavy lead stops and the light lead still turning around the rod. So it's not important when it's turning. Okay, the definition of the phenomenon. The light lead will keep the heavy lead from falling. So the main problem we should focus on is what makes the heavy lead stop and how much the heavy lead will fall. And this is my theory part. My think that Newton's second law and circular motion and the theory of friction is suitable to extend it around. The light lead is forced by the tension of the string, and it will turn in and make a circular motion around the rod. The rod will provide friction to prevent the heavy lead from flowing. And these are the theory that the equation I used. Okay, and in this slide, the first line of it means the tangential force balance, and the second line of it means the central or normal force balance, and the rest of it is our calculation. And in this field, and in the next slide, we can get the first equation, and the second and the third equation are the Newton's second law of the light lead, and we can solve it, and we can get this equation. And this is the Newton's second law, and but we use it to analyze the change of the changing direction of the velocity. And we get these two equations, but actually the length of the string won't actually, or the procedure of the string won't really equals the integrate of the integrate acceleration, because we should consider the rod radius. So, and the rod will, and the length of it will decrease by a constant, like integrate r dc. Okay. So after the heavy lead stops. So we want to focus on the small m and the big M and the initial length of the string and the initial angle of the string and the coefficient of the kinetic friction. And this is my experiment part. First, my device is, I set up 4 frames in a rectangle, and they are both the same. Second, I hang 2 sticks on it, and both of them have the same distance to the top, so I can make sure if it is horizontal. Third, I put a rod on it, and make sure it with the 2 sticks are vertical. And this is the device of the leads. I make the string which connect the light and heavy lead, and the length I use is from the central of the light lead and the heavy lead. So they won't have every problem to that. Okay. And the track of movement, I use tracker to track the movement of the light lead. And device, the original point of the diagram is the rod, and the positive direction of x is the right hand side. The unit of the x-axis and the y-axis is meter. We'll track the light lead until the heavy lead stop to compare the theory and the results. And the movement after it because and the movement after it will just because the light lead just swing around the rod, so the movement is done before the rebound. And the angle measurement. I use the protector. I put a protector below the stick so I can measure the string angle. And the coefficient of the kinetic friction measurement, just as the result of my theory part 1. So I can use this device to measure the kinetic coefficient of the friction. And this is the track of the observation video. We can see that the length of the string decreases with a constant. And this is my experiment result part. The first experiment is the rate of the M and M. And in this diagram, the rate of it is 10. And it falls 66%. And in this diagram is the rate of them is 15, and it falls 70.1%. And in this diagram, the rate of them is 20, and it falls 77.33%. And this is the summary of this experiment. And we can see that the more it fall, the more the rate of length is, and the more they will fall. And this is the initial length of string. And in this diagram, the initial length is 0.25 meters. I need to mention about it because I didn't mention it before. There are two lines in the diagram. One is the theory, and one is the experiment. Okay, and this is the initial length of the string too, and the initial length is 0.5. It falls 65.2%. And the initial depth of it is 0.75, and it falls 66%. And the initial depth of it is 1 meter, and it falls 65.1%. And the initial depth of it is 1.25 meters, and it falls 67.44%. As we can see, the length of the string didn't have apparently effects on the movement, but it just makes it bigger. And the falling rate won't have a significant differences. And this is the initial angle part of the string. And the initial angle I use, the unit is radian, and this is 0. And it falls 66%. And the initial angle of it is 0.1309, and it falls 66.27%. And the initial angle of it is 0.41713. And this is 0.74526. And this is 1.01046. As we can see, the falling rate will have a positive correlation with the angle. And this is the coefficient of the kinetic friction. And the coefficient of kinetic friction of it is 0.01876. And the coefficient of this diagram is 0.101469. And we have a comparison about it, but we can't see anything apparently because maybe it's my coefficient of kinetic friction is too small, so it won't have a big effect. And this is my conclusion part. The length of the string won't have effect on the falling rate of the length. It just makes the movement bigger. And the bigger the angle of the string is, the more the heavy it flows. The bigger the rate of m and of small m and the capital M is, and the more the heavy it flows. And the effect of the coefficient of the kinetic friction is small. Perhaps it's my mu are too small or such a big deal. So the exponential mu, theta are all similar. And the comparison between my experiment and my simulation fits. I need to mention about it. My angle is the string and the horizon. It's between the string and the horizontal line. That is all my presentation.
Okay, so here's some questions for you. Can you please turn to the page that the friction on the rod? In theory,
Theory 1. Sorry, all my slide is too much.
okay, so next, you can answer me later. So, do you test the properties of the string? Did it stretch or not? We have force on it.
No, it didn't stretch much.
Okay. So, do you consider the air drag force?
Oh, do you want to know? Okay.
Okay. Can I have the next question?
Okay.
Can you turn to the result of the experiment?
Result? Result what? Which result?
Please. Yeah, here. I'm very confusing about the graph. what's the units on the vertical axis? And
Oh, I already mentioned about it before. I said that the unit of them are meters.
meters.
Yeah, before
And
slide.
so you made this is falling height of the hexagon,
Now this is the movement.
the movement of the hexagon. Okay. So in your friction theory,
Okay,
Very
friction.
bad.
Which friction? Or just one friction? 就是
theory
theory.
comes down to
Theory is one. Theory is one.
you say the force balance on the string can make you so you get
Yeah,
this equation what? So you get this equation right. But do you think the mass of the string can be neglected?
Times up.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the opponent from the team Unity. And today I'm going to oppose the problem number 14, doing pendulum. And here's the problem statement. And here's a crucial point we think about this problem. First, the reason why the tabula stopped falling, and other parameters like the rod radius of the rod and the coefficient of friction of the rod, or the mass ratio between two rods affect this phenomenon. So here's some reverse pros and cons they consider very much important parameters, and they have the care representation PPTs. But the PPT in there, the words in the PPT is very too much that we can hard to know what they are talking about. And the data is not enough in some experiments, and the words on chart should be bigger. And here's our discussion point between me and the report. First, experiment setup, how they make sure the rod is horizontal, and the light rod and heavy rod. And next is a string property, did it stretch or not? And next is a theory, the mechanism of two rods, how the two rods move, and why the light rod will have that trajectory, and why the heavy rod start falling. And next is their experiment. Data comparison between their theory and experiment, and the effect about the air drag force. Okay, next stage, please. So continue formula I asked you. Please turn to the page of the rod friction field. Okay. So you say that in this small unit, the force expands, right? But the force actually moves in the experiment.
What means move?
When the head rod is holding, did the string move down, right?
Yes.
So the rod is moving, right? When the
Rod. No.
no,
Ross.
no, sorry.
Off. Oh, no. Yes.
So did you know the mass of the rope?
Yes. It's very light.
So you think that if it has acceleration, the force can be neglected. So it's the force balance.
Yes, in comparison with my 90 and the heavy lead, the weight of the slab is smaller, is very smaller than
Then two
this.
rods, right?
This.
Okay. And please turn to the next page. In this graph, do you assume that the velocity of light rod has the angle with the light here, the rope here, did it have 90 degrees or?
No, it's not 90 degrees because as the function I have the arrow dot. It means the right band of the length, and then the omega r is means the angular velocity times the radius. So it should have the two axes of the velocity.
Okay. And in your experiment setup, the rod. Okay. So you say you put these two rods, right, and put this rod on these two. You put this on these two rods, right? You put this horizontal rod onto this rod, right?
Oh, I mentioned it is steep or
Right.
but it's no matter. Yes.
So it's steep, and when you do the experiment, the rod will move, not will vibrate or not.
No, it won't because I make it stable by using string to make it stable.
Stay stable. So it won't vibrate, right?
Yes.
So the movement of it can be neglected.
The movement of the
Well,
rod.
so it won't move. Okay.
No, it won't move.
And in the last question I asked you to say that the string won't stretch. Do you have any data to prove that?
Yes, because the
Do you have any data to prove that?
yes, because the heaviest lead is 94.2 gram, and the 90 is 90.
Sorry, can I see the experiment?
No, I don't put it on here because my time limited.
So you won't stretch.
I can say that the most heaviest lead is 108 gram, and the 90 is 9.4 gram. And we use 200 gram things to stretch this string, and the string is 100 cm and 100 gram. And the measurement of this length is 101 cm. So the elastic of only have 1%. So I think it's smaller enough to necklace.
So the 200 grams is the maximum weight in your experiment.
No, it's bigger than my maximum rate.
And so what's your maximum weight in your experiment?
I say that 188 gram.
Great. Okay. So do you you change various parameters, right? So do you change the radius of the rod?
No, because it will just affect the movement later the heaviness starts. So I think it won't matter.
So can I ask you a question? Do you think if the radius of the rod is bigger, what will happen in this phenomenon?
It's bigger, or if it is very bigger, then the depth of the string will have some of it.
So if the radius becomes bigger, you think the heavy rod will stop easier or harder?
If it is extremely big, I will think that it will stop harder, but in our real reality, we don't actually have this big rod.
Okay. In your conclusion, you say that the static friction stops the heavy rod,
Yes?
right? So you say that the coefficient of kinetic friction is very small.
No, it's because my difference between the coefficient of kinetic friction is small, but I only have these two strings, so I can do it on it.
Oh, okay. And how you have you say you have a experiment to measure the coefficient of friction, right?
Yes?
Can you turn to that page?
Okay.
So how did and you have told me a number about the coefficient of friction.
Yes.
So where is your experiment data to say that to get that coefficient?
Oh, I don't think it's important enough, so I don't put it on there. But I put the average of it.
But you say that the static friction stop the heavy rod.
Yes.
So maybe the coefficient of friction is important, right?
Yes, so I calculated it for you.
So the coefficient of static friction is big enough so the heavy rod can stop.
Yes.
And how big is it?
How big is actually I don't have a actually number.
Oh, okay. And in your, can you turn to the mass ratio experiment? So you get that the mass ratio, when the mass ratio is bigger, the falling height of the heavy rod will be bigger, right?
Yes.
So is there, if the, can I ask a question, if the mass ratio is small, this phenomenon will be success?
It will have a limitation of it at least bigger than 1.
Bigger than 1, so if the heavy rod and mass ratio, so the ratio between them is bigger than 1, and this experiment will be success.
You can't really say about this because
But you just say you
You can really say about every single condition can happen. You will have a limitation bigger than that.
So
So
in
actually
this,
I can't figure it out.
So in this experiment, the condition, you just change the mass, change the mass ratio, right?
Yes.
So when the mass ratio is very big, you will fail or not.
You will fail because as you can see the falling rate is bigger and bigger. And if it's over 100%, then it means the heavy disk falls.
So they have maximum mass ratio.
Yes.
How much?
Oh, actually I can't figure it out because the calculator is very complicated and it's not my ability to do it. But
Okay, and next question. You have the theory and have the particular trajectory of use the theory to predict the trajectory of two loud, right?
no, one dot because this
Like loud.
because the heavy load isn't that complicated.
So it's didn't feed the data will have loud didn't feed your theory, right?
No, it fits because as you can see,
I say about heavy load.
yes, we can see in this graph because the length of the light disc plus the length of the heavy disc is the total length. So we can see this length of this is the same and all of them are approximately the same.
Okay. So when you have loud fall and stop, why it won't fall again?
Why it won't fall again?
Just
because
stop here.
because the light disc was turning around the rod. So as my equation, there will be an exponential Q theta, and when the theta is getting bigger, the theta is getting bigger, the friction of it will be exponential.
Will be exponential. So you think
Not
the-
like this in theory.
So you think the theta become big and the tension will stop it?
Yes. And no, it's not tension, it's friction.
So friction stop.
Yes.
And next week. And in this, you say that T1 equals to T2 have this relationship, right?
Yes.
So when T1 is the T1 equals to this. So if I have a question, if the light rod is swing around and up, the tension of it will become smaller, right? Because
What you miss is going this direction,
this
direction,
and up, the tension of tension one will be smaller, right?
Time's up. So, Thomas, please summarize.
Okay, here's the summary of the opponent from Team. And in the string properties, they say they can, because they do experiment, so they say they can ignore a stretch, but they didn't have any data to prove it. And they also ignore the mass of the rope, which we think is important, but they say that can be neglected because the two rod mass is bigger than the mass of rope. And the conclusion they get, the bigger the ratio of two rod is, the more difficult the loom pendulum will happen. And they say the most important parameter is the friction, the kinetic friction, but they just measure the static friction without kinetic friction.
So, reviewer, please.
Hi, I'm the Williamson Wi-Fi and questions for the reporter. Hi. The question is, you mentioned a lot about the falling rate, so let's use comparables, but what is the definition of falling rate?
falling rate. Oh, I don't actually write on it, but I can definitely define for you.
Yeah,
And the definition of the falling rate is the the length of the heavy string, the length of the string that connected heavy lead from to the rod, and divided by the initial length.
Okay, thank you.
And I need to mention about it. The initial length of the heavy lead is 0.
Okay, so you say that kinetic friction is not the coefficient of kinetic friction is not a manufacturer. So can you explain why is your coefficient of kinetic friction changing? What makes your coefficient change?
What makes the material?
So you use different materials of the rope.
Yes, I write about it.
So materials
in the
one
left
of,
hand,
so
it's
is
the
material
left
one of
hand
you
outside.
parameters, but you didn't say that material is with parameters.
Yes,
I thought you used the
it's
same
the
shape.
coefficient of the my parameter is the coefficient of the kinetic friction, and it means the different material.
Because, can you give a more concrete example of how your theory fits your experiment? Because you say the simulation fits experiment, but you didn't explain why your theory fits the experiments.
Or the movement of them are approximately the same.
The movement is same.
Yes.
Like how?
Like how? Like that.
I mean, I'm not like that's a simulation. It's not theory.
No.
That's a simulation. But how about the theory?
This is the red line of it is simulation,
So that's okay.
and the
Can
blue
you-
line of it is experiment.
Can you explain why the heavy loads will stop falling by your theory?
By my theory, because the
Explain why
friction
it's
stop it. Because as the line load swim around the rod, the theta will getting bigger, and the friction will getting bigger enough to stop the heavy load.
Okay, so I have some quick questions for the opponent. So you propose that you think there are other parameters that will affect experiments. What is your parameters? What do you think you can do more about the parameters?
Change the material of the rod, and that's equals to change the coefficient of friction, right?
Yeah.
And the radius of the rod, because it will affect how easier or harder to stop the heavy.
Okay, can you explain why the heavier loads stop falling from your own theory? Why do you think it stops falling?
They say that because the zeta got bigger, so the coefficient got bigger.
Time's
so
up.
stop the
然后固定画面在2个月大家看，因为我完全没写过。他们问的下到我们这些
应该问这些
就是像他们到时候就 summarize 那种。
So the review is
Hi, I'm the viewer. This is a problem statement. Connect two loads, one heavy and one light. that the string of the long run and the head of the long run. The reason why loan and the string long run can have below from floating rate. And that's it. And I think the main point of this conversation is to discuss what is the crucial points, the boundary conditions under which the heavy load will stop falling to the ground. But I think both the report and the equation discuss about the boundary conditions a lot. They change the parameters and this way they explain how the parameters influence the conditions of the boundary conditions of that prevents the heavy load from falling to the ground. So this is the overview of the reporter, and I think he has a pretty thorough formulation in his theory, and he tracked the pendulum pretty precisely, and he utilized the coordinates to analyze the movement. I think it's pretty smart, and the trajectory is pretty precise, and he also gave us a very clear presentation. But the concept report is that I don't think he explained his theory very well, and he has very few data points, like only 3 data points, and and there's no quantitative relationship between the variables of experiments and theory. They only compare it with the simulation, but not with theory. And I think he is convincing interpretation of his data, and he didn't define the falling rate very clearly during the report, but he defined it again in that axis because I think falling rate is one of the important parts of this experiment because it has only different variables. And I think he lacked the explanation about the boundary conditions of the sloping of the heavy course. And for the opponent, I think he used a very efficient time management during the short question section. It's pretty impressive that he asked the questions about the theory, the accuracy of experiments, and the data like at the same time, like during the 4 minutes. And he actually includes all like the 3 main parts of the experiment, of the report. And he just has the main point during the presentation, but I don't think he didn't really focus on his presentation during the discussion periods. And he also proposed other parameters such as the parameters of the string and like the radius of rod. And the cons is that I think he didn't ask follow-up questions, so I think he let the reporter go too easily. Like I think he is always satisfied with the answers of the reporters, and I think he needs to focus on the accuracy of the experiments and ask too many detailed questions. And he's mismatched. The mismatch in Princeton's question and some questions are tricky. And here's some of the clashes between the opponents and the reporter. So the reporter said friction on the stretch. I think the opponent asked a good question because stretch are not to influence the results. And the use of the graph, I think the reporter should mark it more clearly. And for the friction on the road, and it's anyways, in theory, the opponent asked if the mass is negligible, and the reporter says it can be granted because this one compares to the loads, and I agree with the reporter. And about the vibration of the rod, the reporter says stable, but I think the stability is worth questioning because it's pretty difficult to control. And about radius of the rod, if they can predict, and the reporter said the rod doesn't matter because it only influences the movement after the lighter load forms spirals, and I think it could be predicted using Euler ultimate equations that the bigger radius could be more difficult to stop the heavy load. And for the coefficient of friction, the reporter says it's not important, and I think the opponent misunderstands it because the reporter said about the static friction, kinetic friction, and the opponent said about the static friction. And the maturation maximum, they say it's too complicated, but I think they can obtain the value by experiments. And other parameters I think is worth discussing, and this is missing points of the discussion.
So first, in our discussion, we discussed about the data is not enough, and each of my point is the 10 data average. Okay, and the mass of the rock is small enough to ignore, and the vibration of the rod, because in our observation we can't really see the vibration, so we can say that it is don't vibrate. Okay, and the strength of the rope, because in my preliminary research, I do that, and the result is not above 1%. Okay, and the friction about it, I need to explain about it. And it is kinetic friction because the rope and the rod will have relatively slipping. Okay. About the mass rate limitation, I think that if my result is positive correlative, so I think that if it is smaller but it's bigger than 1, and I think it won't fall. Okay. And the heavy low motion we talked about it now is not very important. Okay. And the air drag. Because the reporter mentioned the opponent mentioned about it, but he didn't really clarify it, so I will say this here. And the calculation after calculation is 0.005688, and it's very, very small than other force. Okay. And this is my concluding remark.
Could you tell me your conclusion? Yeah. What do you mean by rate of N in N? Is it the ratio?
Yes, the ratio.
I have a question for opponent reviewer. Do you think is there any a better graph or data shown here to present this phenomena, because the reporter just showed the movement of the lower the heavier
The falling
load.
rate.
Yeah. So do you have another view of that?
See they have shown how the ratio of two laws affect, but they didn't try we don't know they didn't show that when the length of whole season is bigger, how the light law how the length of the whole season affect the light law trajectory.
And I think that they should I think they should do some further analysis from the movements, so they can after obtain many data by the analysis movement, like the maximum height decrease, that the total numbers of the spirals and such, because there are many quantitative variables that can be obtained by analyzing movement and just presenting the movement to us.
Okay, so first for the reporter is 6, 6, 6, 8, and 7. And for the opponent, is 6, 6, 7, 7, and 7. And for the reviewer, 7, 8, 8, 7, 8. For the higher high school, yeah.
Actually, I'm curious about jury. So maybe you thought there should be some better way to present this experience,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
because may I also hear your opinion first before I comment?
I think maybe reporter can show the time when you stop from your movement, and to compare different angles. Which angle can exit
I
easily
just put
stop.
the
Yeah, it just shows the
place which is stop. Just the end of the left is the place is stop. Because I just check while the heavy D is moving.
yeah. So
I don't measure the time.
you can do further analysis on this data. It will make the representation later. Yeah, it's my comment.
Yeah, I just want to, I think, because maybe I didn't hear previous talks about this subject, so I think he did. The physics part is complex. I think when they analyze the force, something like that, I think it's accurate, so that's why I gave them a number.
I think everyone very good. So I think the score is within the deviation.
And I'm suggesting that for your figures, you should make it more scientific. For example, you should label your x-axis and y-axis. And also the precision of your units here and in many figures is a little bit different. So you should be careful about that. Okay, so let's finish this stage 1 and so 15 minutes. Correct.
The opponent would like to challenge problem number 11, blood cell assembly.
Sorry.无所谓，我们教的是怎样啊？没有，我在下面就是你在学生给我下讲义啊，我没有啊。我越来越有同一张里面有点他做的什么比较大方的，我是在一个大的。我其实看中的足球时候帮我添加一个足球的粉色，然后你讲话的
Reject. A.
B。
The opponent wants to challenge problem number 30, not the top.
你们是听太多次。不好意思，现在忍耐一下。
Reject.
The opponent would like to challenge questions number 16, thinking bubbles.
Reject.
What others?
这样就比对掉，另外这里加几个位。
就是我跟你2.8，跟你
Excuse me, can we make check again?
这个是开放的吗？
是现在才开放。
17是还是可以要染。我没有7是包括是大是还是哪有？
他才没说稳定第一位，选举。
We want to challenge number 4, phone number.
Number 4.
我会写很多字，还可以从这选出。我感受到你的气，因为我字真的很粗。好了好了，我下次会跟着你。那你要最后一场报要视频发布吗？我觉得我们最后一场改视频发布好不好？我最后一场改视频发布。对，不好意思。不，明年不比了。
Honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, we are the Team Unity. Today we are going to report problem number 4 from the board. So let's look at the problem statement first. The problem statement says that a light bulb, like a ping pong ball, can be picked up with a funnel by blowing air through it, and we have to explain the phenomena and investigate these relative parameters. And according to the problem statement, we find out some crucial points of the problem, which is that we need to use a funnel to use it, and we have to blow air through it. And the following experiment, we will focus on these parameters. And then we'll show you our outline. First, we will try to show you the phenomena and try to explain how the force affects this phenomena. And then we will show you the setup of how we do the experiment. And after we do the experiment with variety of parameters, and we have tried to explain this how this parameter affect the experiment. And then we will show you the influential factors and the last is conclusion. First, this is a phenomena observation video. As you can see, we discover that after we release ball, we find two things. That one, the ball is being picked up and staying a similar height. And the second is that the ball is spinning, and we have to discuss it later. And then we will show you the experiment setup. First, we have using air gun as a stable supply for the airflow, and then we connect the air gun and the funnel together. And after we do the horizontal calibration, we use the HFR camera to record it. And then this is how we test the force of the funnel. First, we connect the airflow, of course, with the funnel, and then we also connect the light bulb and the force detector together in case to simulate the real situation how the force will affect the light bulb. And that is our phenomenon. Before we doing the experiment, we find that there is an interesting phenomenon that if we make a water flow through the funnel, we can say that we can discover that the water flow is not even, and the large part of water flow is not in the path, that is, it's not either even or in the middle part. So it inspired us that whether in a question that will the air act similar, and the answer is yes. So we have to and the next is our definition of the experiment. First, we find that there are the airflow is not even, so we define the major wind flow part of the wind zone, and the part that most wind doesn't flow through it, that's the empty zone, and the middle part is the middle zone. And then after we do a variety of times of our experiments, we find if we didn't change any parameter, the light bulb will have a stable height and the similar angular velocity. So we can say this phenomenon can be reappeared for us to do our experiments. And then it's our definition of experiments. We define the radius of the light bulb as big R and the flow rate as V. And then we define the distance between the top of the ball and if we put the ball on the very top of the funnel, a distance D, and the total force is F. And then we have to try to analyze how this force works. Let's talk about wind zone first. And as you can see, after we do a variety of experiments, we find that force will have positive correlation with the distance. But we also find out no matter how the distance increases, the force will always be negative, which means in the wind zone, the force of the wind zone will always put the ball down, and the x-axis means the distance, and the y-axis means the force. And then we also talk about the middle zone. We also in this case we find a very interesting thing that in some certain distance there are the force starting bigger than 0, which will make the suction force, and we have a question about that. But in the empty, when it comes to empty zone, we found that more and more distance that will make the force up to the make section forces, and we think that is caused by the vortexes. And to prove or infer that we put 3 force field together, and we can say that if the ball can be absorbed, it should be sucked at the order of the first. It's be absorbed by the empty zone, and then it's the empty and middle zone, and then it's the middle zone, and the last is the empty zone. And then this our theory means how do the light bulb will be picked up. We say let this pass as the major air force flows through, and then the light bulb will be sucked out as the vortexes like this, like our picture shows, that will absorb like this path. And this is a video to prove it. And then, so we define this blue part as the total force is bigger than 0. That we can say if the ball is so, the distance is so small that means the ball is too high, which will make the airflow push the ball down. And then if the ball is the distance too large, which will make the airflow also drop out. And then we have tested our Reynolds number because we want to use the Bernoulli's principle to try to fix this phenomenon. But after we test about it, we find that both of Reynolds number for the fluid in the pipe or for the ball in the fluid are too large. That we decided to, which means that the linear flow theory are not applicable. So we won't use that to explain it. And we think if that in a certain initial state, they should have a maximum mass of the ball. So we have tested about if we define this part as the stable part, we will after our calculate we will find there are the maximum mass about 11.49 grams. But after we do experiment, like we put them two different kinds of mass of ball to test our experiment, we find both of them will be dropped out, even is smaller than this maximum mass. So we change our definition of the stable height as the least distance. So we can, after our calculate, we can do the maximum mass as the 6.39 grams. And we have to test about it. So we put cotton into the ping pong balls in order not to change the material and the radius. And after we test about two kinds of the mass, we can find if the mass is a little bit smaller than the maximum mass, it will be absorbed up. But if we change that into a little bit bigger, it will drop out immediately. So we can prove that our predict is can believed, and then it's our prediction. Due to wind zone theory, due to our photo theory, the base should be turned clockwise, it's like being spun by the major force. So we will spin like this round. So according to the angular velocity that we have calculated, we find that angular velocity should relate to the wind speed and the ball mass and of course the ball radius. And we can use these two left as to change the moment of inertia. And we think that the angular velocity will have positive correlation with the velocity and the negative correlation between the radius. And then we have tried to do a parameter that we change the ball materials. These are two different materials, but if we didn't change the other parameter, we can see that I have a same stable height and the same similar angular velocity. So we can say that the material of the ball doesn't affect a lot. And then we also change about the ball radius. This is a strange thing that you can see the radius will, the angular velocity will decrease while the radius increase. But after the radius increase to some degree, the angular velocity will suddenly increase rapidly. This is a video you can see. That is the radius of 2.5 centimeters. And if we change the radius to 5 centimeters, we'll see it's very stable. And we can say that the lighter ball, we infer that the lighter the ball collapse more, so we're slowing down the angular velocity. And then we also test about wind speed, and we can clearly find if the wind speed is increased to some degree, the angular velocity will not be stable anymore. In this video you can see. So in our experiment, we only use this part of the wind. In case that we use a portable experiment, and we have test about the funnel of angle. We think that if the funnel of angle will affect our experiments, it will be change the maximum mass. So we do the following experiment with always maximum mass. And if we effect it should immediately fall down. This is our definition of angle theta. And this is a picture of how we do the experiment. There are for variety of angles, and we can say that we can find that no matter how we change the funnel angle, the ping pong ball remains stable. And then we can say there is no obvious change discovered. So we infer that the funnel angle doesn't affect the force field. And the last is our conclusion. We can say that when air flow in the funnel, the flow is not even. It will create a wind zone and the empty zone. And why the ball will be sucked out will be because of the vortex that is not even of the wind. And there exists a real maximum ball mass if we doesn't change the other parameters. And due to the method in the wind zone, the ball will spin while stable. And angular velocity is only relative between the ball's radius and the wind speed. In the last, the both material and the funnel angle doesn't affect a lot. And that's all of my report. Thank you.
Hi, I'm the opponent from Team Wi-Fi, and I want to ask that you separate the area of the funnels into several parts.
Yeah.
And how do you define it?
We just define the. We use the thing to put under the funnel, and we define that's the part the major airflow will flow through as a wind force, and the part that the major force doesn't flow through it as an empty zone, and the middle part is middle zone.
Do you think that the area will be like there will be actually this part and this part? It will be like
There was not very clearly the difference between these zones. So we have defined the middle zone in case that we say that is the.
Okay, and we have the next question. And how do you measure the velocity of and the force?
Oh, we didn't pick in this picture. So we make two different sides of the. You use HFR camera in two different sides, in this side and this side. And after you can see that we have drawn black points of this on the ball, so we can calculate
Okay,
it.
I got the point. And how do you prove the air acts similar ways to water?
No, we didn't say that's a similar rate. We just find that the water will have this phenomenon. So it inspires to test this wind flow. It's not relative. We just think it might be half.
So why do you put it down?
We just show you how we discover this question.
Oh, okay. And how do you define stable?
Stable.
Yeah.
When stable, it means increase to.
Time's up.
Oh, sorry.
problem is number 4, funnel and ball. And the problem statement is that a light bulb can be picked up with the air by blowing it through it. Explain the phenomenon and investigate it rather than corrupt it. And we think the important point of the first statement is to pick up the ball. It is a review of the funnel, a review of the report. From theory, they set a different song, and the maximum ball mass. And for the experiment, they did many experiments, and they are about the material and the mass of the ball, and angular velocity, and the angle of the funnel. In the conclusion, they say that radius and speed will affect the phenomenon, and the material won't affect it. And here are the strengths and weakness that we think of the report. And the strength is that they use the physics law carefully, and they should have performed more theory, and they have good variable control, and they define search tools around search that will affect the picking up movement. And the weakness we think about theory is that they have unclear force analysis and unclear structure. And for experiments, they should down more parameters. And for conclusion, is that they lack of connection between the theory and experiment. So here's some, and skip to the next stage. How do you make sure that the velocity of the fluid will be constant?
So we just test about it. We use pen. You can see that clearly not be moved while it at the empty zone, right? So we can say that it's clearly not even. And let us consider another question: what makes this green zone and empty zone? We think that it depends on the initial state, right? And which means if we have the not at a very perfect experiment setup, it should be not even. But if the airflow is really vertical and the funnel is very perfect, it should be the even. We think, but we didn't do that because it's too hard for us. Okay, do.
I have another question. There is an experiment about you change the size of the ball.
Yes.
But if you change the size of the ball, you have also changed the mass of it. So how can you ensure that?
No. We just I say we use the ping pong ball. We put cotton into a ping pong ball. So we just make all of the radius, the different radius ping pong ball into a same mass. We have measured it before.
And so the density will be different.
No. So I just like I told you, I put cotton into a ping pong ball. That make all different ball of the different radius into a same mass.
Different radius for the same mass, then their
You mean density?
density will be
So it comes to the question that we have done it before, that we use different material, which means the different density, right? And we have proved that the different density doesn't affect the experiment.
To the page 24.
24, okay. Wait a minute, sorry. What?
Why do you think that
draw a line.
Yeah.
We test about airflow. We use
So you see that
the pressure detector.
relation will be just like a straight up line.
So we just use the wind speed at this point. So we can say if we only use the wind speed at this area, it should be linear, positive, and we will cause the not so much influence. Next page, okay?
No.
Next.
There's a chart that the spot is like this and it go up.
Oh, okay. So what do you want to add?
But I think that the spot is too big. It's just you use
Actually, we have done in a variety of types of experiment in a certain radius, and we just in our experiment we only do the experiment with the radius of 2 to 6, and we only need to discuss this part of the relationship between the angular velocity and the radius, and we doesn't know what is the certain degree of the radius, but we only do 4. In this case, we only do 4 and 5, so we don't need to
and according to
discuss
the current statement, we think that the most important point is the ball is being picked up. So do you have figure out which condition will lift out the ball?
Just like I said, we will make some vortexes that will make the path like this. Wait a minute, sorry. We'll make the path like this. Because we can't.
What about the actual condition?
Actual condition? I don't get it. What do you mean?
When will it be picked up and when it won't?
In the certain distance or in certain time, what do you want to add the parameters? We have tested about a certain distance. So if your question is about the distance, we have tested about that in about this area. About this area will be picked up, and it will be picked up to the very top, and then will be pushed down and until it has a stable state.
Oh, and when you change the distance, you change the distance from the ball to the top of the funnel, right?
Yes.
And but you also change the ball to the side there.
What do you mean?
Right, this is a funnel.
Yes.
And you both change here and here. So how can you ensure that is the force exact X here or when the fluid goes like this?
So you can say that if we change the distance into this to this, right? The measured flow will flow on this. It still flow to this direction, right? But if we change into this part, it will change like this. So we can say that the total force, the wind speed will be a little bit different. Because it will be a little bit spread of the wind. Because it has more space, right?
Yeah. So what do you think about the change of the velocity and the change of velocity of the fluid affect the axis?
Yeah, good question.
What type of theory?
Theory. You mean that? No. Just like I say, we can use the Bernoulli's principle to explain it because we have tested about Reynolds number, which is too large. You can say no matter the Reynolds number in the pipe or no matter the Reynolds number in the fluid is too large, over than 3,000. That's so we choose not to explain it in of the experiment. So what we trying to explain the reason why the ball will be picked up as we use the vortex, because there will make some vortex in the funnel which is not through in a certain path. You can see that there are no that's not all the wind speed flow out of the ball will go into this path.
Okay.
Some are doing it very
But
fast.
there's a track the ball on the machine.
You mean force detector?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how do you make sure that the ball is always in the pitch?
Huh? What do you mean?
How do you make sure that every time you do your experiment, do you change the height?
Yes, we have tried to test the force in different
sure
distance.
That the ball is in the middle.
No, we have used the HLR camera. We have used the camera to do in the axis to make sure that in a similar position.
Oh. Okay.
And we use tracker to define it.
And to the page 23.
23, okay. And then this watch.
Oh yeah. And how do you explain about the red spot?
But we can say that you can see that while the video going, there will be some chaos of the ball, right? You can see that there will be a little bit spin vortex of the ball. We have to explain that might be caused by the path of the wind. You can see if we make the ball in the same position but in different radius, it would make the major wind flow in the different paths. As you can see, if in a smaller radius, the ball will wind like this. But if we will use the radius bigger, it will be like this. Then the force can pass to the ball and make the vortex more clearly, we think. And the conclusion we got is that the lighter the ball comes, they will slowing down the angular velocity.
What do you think is the most important point for picking up the ball?
Picking up the force.
What?
The wind flow.
The wind flow.
Yes. How the wind flows out of the funnel and how the major force go and how is I think it's the most important part. Because you can see if we change the major force path, it will make a different obvious different spin of the ball, right?
Yeah.
Like on the different distance. So we think. But we can't control this parameter because it's too difficult. You can control the flowing at a perfect vertical line, and you can try to convert the wind speed in a very linear of
Also, how does
relationship
the wind force create the picking up force?
with the vortex. I told you. There are some wind that is not. I told you that there are some wind that not flows through this path, right?
Okay.
So the vortex will absorb the go up.
And how can you prove the theory with your experiment? How do you measure?
We can try to analyze it very more, but you can see clearly in our observation video. You can see that just absorb out as the vortex, right? Huh? We use tracker to we have tried to use tracker to check the position of the height of the ball, but we think that is.
I asked that which condition did the ball up? And the answer from the reporter is like that. And I asked that when you change the distance when you change the distance d, and it will change between the ball and it will change two different things. And then they say that they have proved that the one is not affected. And then I asked that how do you measure the ball is in the middle, and they say that they use the camera. Okay,
Hands up. So reviewer, please raise your question.
Okay, for the recorder, you define what the word pickup is, what condition is the word pickup?
What condition?
Definition of the pickup.
Of the pickup? Well, it will not fall in the flow policy pickup.
So you know how to, so this is how you define. Okay. So do you consider that the airflow will push the ball, give the impulse to the ball?
Of course.
So did you calculate it?
We didn't calculate because there are a lot of parameters in this big, and the wind flow will make a lot of forecasts that we can't calculate the force, the wind flow, but we have measured the total force of this, so we can say that yes.
So you think that the angle will not affect the result?
It might be, but not very much.
Okay, so if the angle is bigger than 90 or maybe 180 degrees.
But if we do that, we just do it like we didn't have no.
What do you think we will have?
We didn't have any funnel.
Okay, then what's the thoughts? What do you think if the angle is too big to reach that?
You mean that
Like almost the
it's
surface.
like you blow the ball.
Okay, so what is the rotating motion affect the result?
Rotating motion.
Yeah.
You mean the angular velocity or?
Yes. Did you mention it?
We didn't mention, but we think that wouldn't affect a lot because there are a different direction of the force that which affect the ball. So the funnel, the wind flow will have two effects, which is the height of the ball and the angular velocity of the ball.
Okay.
But these two is separate. We think.
Okay, what do you think that the rotating motion will affect the results? Okay, let's move to the next question. Okay, so for the what you think that the zone will 6, but the ball is too big that you can define what area it is. So how do you define what area the ball is?
As you can see, we have test lights in the funnel hole, like in this area, in this area, in this area. So we find this as a window.
So you think that the ball will be actually in the same area as the funnel?
Not actually, because the wind will go like this, but not this, you know. But it will with the path will follow the ball's surface.
Okay, so you didn't think that the funnel is vertically and perfect, so it will be
Time's up.
What do you mean perfect?
It's all you say.
No.
不要再打 perfect。
main focus we should focus on is how the ball is picked up and what is the definition of pickup and what parameters will affect the result. And here's the reporter's outline. So first, they give an observation that the ball is picked up in a certain time in the flow is, and they say the flow is not even, but they didn't see that it is similar to the airflow, that maybe not the same. So, but they think it's an inspiration to the experiment, and they give the setup that the air producer is to the funnel. And but I think that the funnel is not vertical or perfect, and the air speed will not be stable. It may affect the result. And the definition and the theory, and they define the properties of the setup, and they say that it is a turbulent flow, but they didn't give a clear theory and the equation. And they didn't, and they think that the zone is in a single location. And the experiment part, they use the mass to support the theory, the maximum mass. And but the experiment can prove the theory, and they didn't calculate it. And the conclusion that they say the angle does not affect that. I think that the angle may be a parameter that we should focus on. And they didn't mention the limitation of this problem. And here's the problem's outline. They said, and the summary is that they said agriculture didn't have a connection between the theory and the experiment, and the parameters is not enough. And they said that they got important miss, and have a great discussion with the reporters. And here's the discussion. The opponent think that the wind speed will not be even, but the reporter think that it's even. But I think in different areas the velocity will not be the same. And here's the mass adjustment. They think they can put cotton inside the ping pong ball, but I think that if you put cotton in the ping pong ball, it will change the center of the mass in the ping pong ball, so it will not be in the same part. And here's the angle, and the reporter think that the angle will not affect that. I think that there must be a limitations that the funnel with a big angle cannot lift out the ball. And then it's the wind velocity, then use Bernoulli's principle, but the middle number is too big. And I think that, they didn't give the accurate answer for the question. And here's the position of the ball. And I think that the ball may be in a different area they define. So maybe they can give a clear definition of the area where the ball is. And here's the point miss. So first is the limitation of this problem and the limit of the angle. And that may affect the result. And here's the problem that what is the maximum leveling force that it can pick up with a fixed funnel. And the crossing section area will be changed in the funnel, and the velocity will change. And the air drag and the viscosity will affect the result. And they didn't give the kinetic equation. Thank you.
First, I want to declare to the opponent and reviewer that we didn't make a perfect experiment setup. So what we choose to do is just control all the experiment setup and initial state of the experiment. Like we can say we can do the experiment, and then web test. This is discussing point of me and the opponent. The opponent asks about the different area or declare bounding of it. We think according to a force we measure, and we define the middle zone in case the edge is not clear. And the opponent also talk about the changing of the ball radius for effect experiment. We think it's not really. And they also talk about the condition of when the ball is lifted. We have explaining in page 14, and we just misunderstand. And the opponent also asks how does the wind flow create a pickup force, and just like with our theory, and it will be absorbed by the vortex. And then they also talk about if we consider air pushing force. No, we didn't, but we had considered total force. And the reviewer asked us that if we change the radius of the ball, will affect the wind flow saturation. We think that no, but we consider different zone will appear as soon as the flow comes out of the same funnel. And then the reviewer didn't consider a big angle. We consider the angle is too big, couldn't call it a funnel, because if the funnel, it must be some angle smaller than 180 degrees. And and according to the reviewer's question, if that has a minimum angle of the tube of a funnel, we think if that is too small, that just like we put a ball into a tube, that have no sense, and it is irrelevant, that is think. And that's all, thank you.
So now, questions from
according to your analysis, it seems that your airflow is asymmetric in your funnel, right? And basically the behavior of the ball is, the movement of the ball is basically based on those vortex because this kind of asymmetry.
Yes.
So do you think if this kind of asymmetry is necessary to pick up the ball?
Yes, we think that is very important part.
I mean
the vortex will affect it.
I mean, if, for example, if the wind zone and the empty zone is symmetrically distributed in the funnel.
Oh, yes, we can say that. I have some misunderstanding to review the question. That the definition of the wind zone and the empty zone, actually it depends on at the very beginning. According to about in this area, the wind zone will have the angle of the funnel. So we can define that this part will be the wind zone and this part will be empty zone.
What I'm asking is, if we can say perfectly distribute all the wind,
Perfect even.
yes, do we still be able to pick up?
I think no, we didn't do that, but we think no.
Okay. How about your ideas for the opponent?
I think that you will miss the effect and you will pick up the ball because of the counter effect.
So you think if we still be able to pick up?
Yes, and I agree with reviewer.
I have a question for three of you. If we change the funnel, the shape of funnel, what will be changed? Will still can pick up the ball?
Yes, it can, but it will change the airflow path of the wind.
I mean, your funnel is straight, right?
Yes.
Now
You
I
could have
change it
some
to
angle of
some circle, like the bottle of the water. It's not straight, but it's a kind
You
of
mean
circle.
like this or this? Is that?
No.
I don't get it.
Circle.
just like a bottle.
Like a bottles, the top of bottle.
Oh, but it will just affect at the full part because the left part it doesn't affect a lot because if you say like if you change it like this,
Yeah.
the ball will the force that will affect the ball will just in this area, and we can still define it as a.
But the ball still
Will still
can,
have it will still have a different zone, I believe.
but it still can pick up the ball, right?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Okay. What about your opinion?
I think the ball will be picked up according to the contact effect, and I think that it will be picked up too.
It still can pick up,
Yeah.
no matter the ball radius.
I think it will affect, and there will be a size. I will be
some limitation. Okay. How about your
I think that
opinion?
the current the funnel will be affected the distance in the balance motion, and so they can be still be lift up, but the distance will change.
Okay.
Quick question for reporter. Which parameter in your experiment will increase the angular velocity
We increase the angular velocity,
of the ball?
like the flow rate, like the surface of the light bulb, some parameter that you should affect this.
Is there any force difference?
Like if you have a not very perfect surface that will like be this, the surface will affect the spin angular velocity, I believe.
So I have a question. So time is up. So let's just conclude this session. Okay, so for the reporter, 67886. And for the opponent, is 56767. And for the reviewer, it's 78778. Any comment from the okay. So let's pause this stage and we have 15 minutes break. Please take your time to challenge the reporter.
那学期的有没有帮我把每一种事情超头一天？我不知道业主教你如何摄影机可以到抄袭，这你要签名。包开除抄袭。在潜入偷者，会变成第二的点。你给我们讲一个快速的，美国两传就给他一次决心。
We would like to challenge problem number 17, optimal chain reaction.
Good morning, I'm the reporter from Team Wi-Fi, and today I'm going to talk about problem number 17, popsicle chain reaction. This is the problem statement. Wooden popsicle sticks can be joined together by slightly bending each of them so that they interlock in a so-called cobra weave chain. When such chain has one of its ends released, the sticks rapidly dislodge, and a wave front travels along the chain and investigate this phenomenon. This is our outline. And I'm going to talk about, we just talked about the problem statement, and next we're going to talk about what we observed when it released, and the theory. And we will talk about our experiments. And then we will talk about our conclusion, and last we will put our references. And this is the video of the chain reaction, and I will talk about it on this page. And from this picture, we can see that the chain reaction will travel along the chain when we release it, and it will first be left out and then released. And we can also know that every individual popsicle sticks will be bent above and below for perpendicular sticks. So from the observation above, we define that the cobra weave chain is that the popsicle would travels along the chain when we release, and also there will be left out release. And each stick will be bent above and below 4 sticks. And this is our theory. When we build the popsicle train, we will see that the stored elastic, we will building stored elastic energy, and when we release, it will become into kinetic energy and gravitational energy when we release it. So when we build it, each popsicle will be bent over a stick on one end and held under a stick on the other. Then that we will build the stored elastic energy. And we study this phenomenon in the terms of energy. And for the first formula is the elastic potential energy equals Fs. And for the second one is the gravitational energy equals mgh. And this, the first one is the elastic energy, and when we release it, it will become the gravitational energy and the kinetic energy. And these are our equipments. There are popsicle sticks, measuring tape and ruler, the vernier caliper, tape, marker, tripod and camera, and a scale. And for this picture, for the background is our wall, and the white place is our ground. And the distance between each stripe is 10 centimeters. So that when we can see clear in the video, then we can track it. And this is how we do our experiment. First we start off with 2 popsicle sticks and we lay them in an H shape, just like this. Then we place and this is the third stick. We place the end under the first popsicle stick. We place the end of a third popsicle stick under the upper end of the stick on the bottom of the X. And then we continue adding the 4th popsicle stick, and we just add it until we got 35 sticks in our experiments. When we let go the unclamped end, the popsicle sticks will explode along the lines, and this is a chain reaction. And this is what I should build my popsicle train. And there are some red lines on the popsicle on this train. Might be not clear, but this is the 5th popsicle, and this is the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35. And this is how when we start to build our train. And one point is where we release it. And from this picture, we can know that each individual stick is bent alternately above and below 4 perpendicular sticks. This is the popsicle stick of this one. And we can see that from the left to right, it will be pressed down and lift up and press and lift. And we could use this formula to know the elastic energy in each stick. And this is how we do to know the elastic energy. We view these 2 points as a datum plane, and we press down the 2 sides. This is A and B. So when we pull down the place, the A, we can know how much energy it will be stored inside. And this is our experiment. Our independent variables are the square size. And the square size means just here. This is a square size. And our control variable is the specification of the popsicle sticks with the size, the thickness, number, and the mass. And our control variables are also camera position and the experimental location. And our dependent variables is the height. And after we build the popsicle train, we repeat the experiment with the side length of the square being 2.6 centimeter 0.2 centimeter, 1.8 centimeter, and 1.4 centimeter. And this is the square size. And for the length is over here. And from the picture, we can know that for the 2.6 centimeter, the square size is the biggest, and it will become smaller when it goes to 1.4 centimeter. This is what we do in our every stick that with A plate and the B, and we can know that how much it will be bent when we create the obstacle chain. And we can see that it will be the distance we pull will be bigger when it goes to 1.4. And this is the height that we observe in the 5th, 10th, 15 to 30 obstacle sticks. And this is the every stick we see and how much it was bent and how much the height would it be when we release it. From this picture we can know that when the square is smaller, the stored energy will be bigger, and when the distance is bigger, the stored energy will be smaller. And from the height we can know the gravitational energy, and when the square is smaller, we can see that it will be more gravitational energy from here to here, but in the 1.4 it will not be that high. And this is our conclusion: is when we bend more, the energy will be bigger, and the height will also be bigger, except 1.4. And we think maybe it's because that it is over the elastic limit. And we can also see that not all of the stored elastic energy would turn into kinetic energy and gravitational energy. And these are references. Okay, this is the end of my report, and thank you for listening.
And so you mentioned a graph in your report. So can you explain what is any x and y axis in your graph? Yes.
You mean here? Oh.
Yeah. X and y axis.
This is the.
And also the unit.
This is the square size.
The unit. Centimeter is the area. Centimeter. The square size. It is the area, but you say it's centimeter.
Oh, I said it as the square size because I just want to say that the distance of the square.
So it is square, not a paragraph. Okay, that's not. And do you know that? Why you only try one way to put the stick together? Because it's not in the problem statement. There are several ways to put the obstacle sticks together, but why you only tried one?
I
You
find it like just how I made the obstacle chain.
Okay, and you mentioned that it is a wave, right? It's actually a wave. The foreground wave is a wave, right?
Yes.
And you use your hand to release the chain, right? You use your hand to release the chain.
Yes.
And next, do you consider that the bending of the chain is the same in every point?
The bending will not be all the same.
Do you consider in your theory, yes or no? Do you consider that the bending is the same in the theory?
We didn't say that it is all the same.
So do you think that it's not the same?
In our experiment, we found that it's not all the same.
And all the angles in your experiment, is it vertical? In every experiment, is it the angle always vertical?
Yes, it's vertical.
And what is A and B in your report?
And the A is in
Time's up. One of you have 3 minutes to prepare.
I'm Yuani from Team Transportation. Today I'm gonna oppose the problem 17, accelerating reaction. And I think that the main point of the problem is that they are bending together, and also if a cobra wave will be occurred. And after you release one of the ends of the stick, the stick will rapidly dislodge. And the next is, to solve this problem, the opponents think that there are some structures so we can follow. First is why the classical sticks will pop out first, then dislodge. And as you can see, if the stick is dislodged first, and the cobra wave won't happen. And the next is, we need to investigate the velocity of the classical sticks. As the problem statement mentioned, that they are rapidly dislodged. So the opponents think that the velocity is an important part in this phenomenon. And the next is how different conditions will change the velocity and also change the cobra wave. And next is the reporter's outline. First is the theory part that they did a really great calculation. And they mentioned that they store the elastic energy. The elastic energy will change into a kinetic energy. But they didn't explain the wave as the professor mentioned. And I think that their theory is too weak to explain this phenomenon. And the next is the experiment part, that they measure the stored energy and try to do the different heights. And the next, but the weak point is that the ankle will affect because the weight, the ankle will affect, and their A and B isn't defined in their report. And the next is the conclusion part. They mentioned that if it bend more, the energy will store more, and also the height will be higher. But they didn't talk about the cobra wave. They also didn't talk about the relation between the velocity and the cobra wave. And the next is the strong and the weak point. The strong point is that they investigate the ankle and use Hooke's rule to explain the phenomenon. Sorry for that. And the weak point is that their displacement isn't the same. Then they will change the Hooke's rule. And the next is that they didn't explain why it will dislodge first, and then they didn't explain why the wave will come out, and then all the sticks will be dislodged. And the next is that they didn't investigate the wave, as the professor mentioned that it should be an important part. And the fourth is that the rapidly is an important part, so the velocity, they didn't investigate it. And the fifth part is they release by hand, but if you release the hand slower than the stick's velocity, then the error may occur. And the sixth is the square might be accurate, and there might be some error. And next is the discussion part. First is the theory, like we want to discuss like why the wave is produced, and also they mention it's a wave. So can they say like what is the function of the wave? And next is the displacement isn't the same, so it may change the energy. And the experiment part that they didn't talk about the velocity, so they also didn't explain it rapidly. And the ankle isn't measured accurate. There's some error maybe occurred when they put them together. And the third part is, and the result part is that they didn't try different conditions exactly. They didn't try the square, but maybe ankle will change the phenomenon. And the next is their lack of result. Their experiment is too weak to prove their theory. So I want to invite the reporter to the discussion.
Okay. And which question I want to?
First, in your theory part, you use the Hooke's rule in your theory, right? Can you explain what is the X in your theory? Can you draw on the backboard?
This one?
Yeah, X.
Oh.
Can you draw on the backboard? What actually X is?
No, I didn't.
You didn't use this phenomenon.
No, wait. I mean, the elastic potential energy could be right into these two kinds of.
Yeah.
And I used the first one.
Use the first one. Then what is X in your theory? You draw on the backboard, please. So what's the X?
Wait.
You didn't use it, but why you on your theory?
I just mean that it could also be right into like this.
Yeah, but you didn't use a theory.
Yeah, I used the first one.
Yeah, it's enough, but you didn't use a theory to prove this experiment, right? And they also can explain what X is in your theory. So we actually don't know what this is. And also, did you measure the K in your theory?
No. So I just say I used the first one.
Yeah, and always focus on the first one.
Yeah.
But what is X in your theory?
But we didn't.
Because in my opinion, I think the X is this part, right? This is the height of the equation like this, and the X is actually this. Do you agree with me? I think your opinion is this.
But I just didn't use this.
But not the theory, but
Yeah, I don't use the first one. So I think you don't need to always be.
So what's the first one? What is the distance?
M.
This.
No.
And what is S? It's also always this part, right? But as we know that the S is not a change. It will be changed because it's this blue and this, and this S isn't equal to this S. And also the energy will show it here and here. So maybe you should change your theory. And
No, I mean, there will be, every possible day will be 4 points.
yeah,
And we measure the,
what is S here?
width.
Yeah, so S is here, but the energy is also stored here. And you give their boundary, that area is across the puzzle stage. They are not a point, so you can use this.
I mean, this is the A point and the
Okay.
A or B.
Oh, okay, I know what you mean. So that's one. And the next part is that you say that how do you release the speed? You release it by hand, right?
Yeah.
And if your hand release slower than the velocity of the thing, the intentional velocity will be changed.
We didn't talk about this velocity. We only talk about the height.
But if the intentional velocity is changed, the height will be changed too. You agree with me? So maybe you should use some.
No, I think the velocity in me is that it.
Velocity
But
is.
I mean, I do the experiment at high speed.
Yeah, I know, but if the intentional velocity is changed, the height will change. Do you agree with me? Okay, that's one. And next, the problem statement mentioned that it is rapidly dislodged. So I'm thinking about why you only do the height, not the velocity. You said you didn't, right? Why do you do the velocity? Because it's rapidly dislodged.
From the problem statement, I think the main point is the slightly bending each of them. So I just make it will bend different when the distance of the square is different.
Yeah, but why you didn't mention this rapidly dislodged?
Because I focus on slightly bending.
Okay, and you also mentioned that there person also mentioned that there's a cobra wave, right? And you said it's a wave, but can you tell us what's the function of the wave? Of the wave. Every wave can, if it's a wave, then we can write the function of the wave.
It's not a wave.
What do you say is a wave? I asked in the short question. Can you write it down? Okay, can you tell us what is the function? Or maybe you can use a sine wave to fit the function.
So not the
But
wave.
I asked you, you said it's a wave.
Sorry.
Okay. So you think that it's not wave, it's just a wave that looks like a wave looks like that.
Yes.
Okay. And because it first can you explain why the puzzle sticks will pop out then dislodge? Why this will happen?
Because
And do you think that it is related to the square?
I think the square will related to the distance here. Because when it is the distance smaller and it will be hard to bend it.
I mean that why the train will pop out and then the train will dislodge. Why we pop out first then dislodge? Why it's not dislodge first and then pop out?
Because some will be interlocked inside, and when some of this here will be released first.
Yeah.
And then when you go to here, some here is still first. So it will still be interlocked in the train.
And so
it will first be lift out and then release.
And okay, so because if you can explain this, then we can know like why the problem is occurring. And next that you mentioned that because and please page your experiments, the data. And there's a peak in your data. The next. Oh, here. What is a peak in your data? You said, can you explain it? Because it's very
because why is it string?
Then why do you think that you can? How do you explain it?
I said when the stored energy is bigger, then it will be more gravitational energy.
Yeah.
So it should be higher.
And can you explain it again? Sorry.
I mean, when the stored energy is more and the retention energy was more.
Then how about this point?
In our experiment, we just find out that for 1.4, it would just only be like this, and we guess we think maybe it is over the.
But if it's over the elastic energy, the particle state will break.
Yep.
Right?
It didn't broke.
Yeah, so your thinking might be something wrong.
Where will it broke?
If the elastic is more, then the state will break.
No.
Right?
No, the elastic energy is more, and the more it will bend. Now it broke.
Then why? Then so it will bend. Then this point, you said that this energy is higher.
Yes.
So if you say that this point will not be that high because it's over the elastic energy.
This is what we thought, because this is
Then
what we
if
observed.
something is over the elastic energy, the thing will be broke.
Oh.
Right? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me? Or maybe you can explain it.
I mean, the elastic energy that I mean is the limit.
Okay, so maybe that we can move on. And why do you only do the height? And how do you definite your height? Because as you can see in the picture that you put, that the weight is like this, and this large particle states will go upper here. And what is the height in your experiment? How do you define it? It is the highest point of the chain right here.
We get the height
or
from.
this. What is it?
The height we mean is when it releases, and we get it from the tracker.
How do you define the height? The chain is look like this, and then it will be stopped, right? And what is the height? Is it here the highest point of the overall weight, or the highest point of the other system again?
The highest, the release state it will get.
You will what?
That's the height.
Yeah. What is the height? Can you
I
define
mean,
it?
it's the highest point that every sticks. I mean, after it is released.
So what is the height? Just this or here? Two different. Two.
Okay, and yeah, when it release here, and
why?
No, we will believe by release, right?
Time's up. So, please summarize the discussion.
And first we discussed about the dispatch, and we discussed about the dispatch of the shape and why will it dissolve, why will the chain pop out and then it dissolve, and that is the reason why the cobra wave is produced. And next is the height. Then next is the height. Like what is height in their report means, and how they definite, and also. We also discussed about the wave. Is it a wave or is it just a wave? Like, is it a wave? We looks like a wave, and the report think that it is a V. And we also discussed that where there's a peak in their graph, and the report think that it's because the elastic, it's over the elastic energy, but opponent think that it is over the charge will be broke. So it makes the discussion.
Okay, so review.
Okay, I have one question for the reporter. In your experiment, you say that makes some the energy loss to your experiment that makes it not secure zero, right?
Why is not secure?
Okay, so fine. How do you define? I have another question. Is how do you define your potential energy of your each obstacle? How do you define your potential energy? What's the definition?
From here.
From here. So you see the definition from the surface, right? Version from is that right? Yes or no?
This is the
So what?
table, and this is the
So what's the potential energy? How do you define its potential energy?
from the force we put here.
So how do you measure your potential energy of your popsicle? You say you talk about you just use this. So you think you believe that equation can use in your experiment. There are no other effective for your experiment? Yes or no? Okay, okay. And the next question, how do you define your cobra wave?
Fine.
Wave, sorry. How do you define your cobra wave? Do you have a definition?
Yeah.
Where?
I just put it in here.
Oh, so next question is that possible to make another kind of cobra wave? Like in your wave, okay. Like in your experiment, you say that the cobra wave will the particle will spread on the very beginning, right? When the particles will be spun up, will be spread, right? Is that possible to make like the particle will make a cobra wave first and then it will spread? Is that possible?
No, but when you release it, what was it happen there?
But no. It will have raised up first and then the particle will spread. Is that possible?
No, I mean.
So you think that's not possible either?
I think it's possible.
So
There are actually two different ways for the stick to pop out. Then in their experiment, I only put it on the rack. But if you put the chain upside down, this way will also happen.
So okay, so you think that is possible?
Yeah.
The next question, how do you think is the parameter to change your speed? Have you ever measured your speed of your cobra wave?
I only measure height.
So you didn't measure. So if you measure speed, what parameter that you think could be influence your speed?
I think we didn't do about velocity.
So what do you think? Just a quick answer. Is the
This
property
now
of
we're going to talk
so you
about.
think it's not impossible? It's not possible.
No, it's that.
It's not a point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think?
The velocity what parameter will change the velocity? The angle may change.
Honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, we are the Team Unity. Today, what I'm going to go through is the question particle chain reaction. And next is the problem statement. And according to the problem statement, we think that that's some crucial point of the problem, which is the cobra wave chain and the wavefront travels, how the wavefront travels. And then let's talk about the reporter's outline. A reporter's report, first they talk about the observation, they do the picture of the phenomena, and they have some definition of the experiment. And then in the theory, they have talked about the energy transform. And then they have to do an experiment with some parameters that they have to set up, they have measurement of elastic energy, and they have to do some parameter and properties. And then they have some conclusion is that will make some energy loss. And then let's talk about reporters' pros and cons. The reporters sound good. They have great activity. And But I think they have some mistake that is they didn't focus on the wavefronts, which is problem statement wants us to observe, and they have not enough property of the chain reaction of observed and the popsicles. They didn't measure the Young's modulus and other within into the data, and they have poor theory we see. And then it talk about the opponent's pros and cons. The opponent do something very good is that they could clear crucial points of the problem, but the cons is that not PPT preparation is not enough, and they are not focused on what people have done and give too much their own opinion, we think. And then let's talk about the discussion objects they have talked about. And first, they talk about the theory of the elastic energy. The opponent asks about giving Hooke's equation. How did the reporter define the constant K and the disciplinant, and reporter not using that measurement? And we think that we have the same question with the opponent, but suggest that the opponent shouldn't keep focused on it to reporter say because they didn't use the equation at all. And let's talk about the Cooper wave. The opponent asks the reporter about delay if they consider the wave speed and the function of the wave, and the reporter didn't think it is what it just looked like. And we think basically we agree with the opponent that they should consider the wave properties of the phenomenon. And I talk about the height. The opponent think that the significant definition of the height, but the reporter say that the highest point of the wave. But we think that the same question of the opponent, and they should consider each popsicle will have different heights. Because you can see that is that's not a stable height. And it's our question. We have asked about the different kind of Cooper wave, and the opponent said that that should be 2 kinds of Cooper wave, but the reporter not sure. They didn't have done 1 Cooper wave, and we think that should have a 2 Cooper wave. And then that's a missing point we doesn't pick on PPT is that how do they measure the potential energy at all particles, and they should do the property of the Cooper wave. And then we think that should do more parameter like how the Cooper wave influence their speed. And according to the opponent say, if they change the angle, the speed will get higher. But the answer is we think that the total energy is the same. So if we make the angle bigger, the time from the beginning to the end should be the same. But also, and then I should talk about the other do more parameter, and then I believe they can do better. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, from the discussion, the theory we use is U equals Fs, and the latter one is just another form, the formula to calculate the potential energy. And there's no meaning in knowing the K. So I didn't use that form of formula to explain the results. And the Cobra wave is not a wave. It's just the way we put those things together. And Cobra wave won't occur. It's just the way we okay, for the break and the over elastic energy, there are 2 different things. And over elastic energy is when the movement doesn't fit the law, and the Hooke's law. And the height is that when the popsicle chain reaction hasn't dislodged. And I think the opponent and reviewer didn't understand the problem statement. Just Cobra wave is not a wave, and it won't propagate. It's the initial condition. So for velocity, my theory is about the conversion between potential energy and elastic energy. So the height matters more, and this is my conclusion.
Okay, so now we open questions.
I have one question for the researcher. According to your data, that only say 5% of the elastic potential go to turning to the gravitational energy. So do you still think that gravitational energy is still a good indicator to describe this phenomenon? I mean, going to go back to the slide with the elastic energy and the gravitational energy. Okay. I think according to your data, this next one. Yeah, this one. Yeah, according to your data, this, for example, this the store energy in the elastic potential is, say, roughly 1 joule, right? Then the other is somehow only 5% of it. So it says that during this process, only, say, roughly 5% of the energy go from the elastic potential to the gravitational energy. So do you think the gravitational energy is still a good indicator to describe this phenomenon? That means a lot of energy go to different paths. So you still think this is a good indicator to describe this phenomenon? Okay. So how about you? For the opponent?
I didn't read the report, and I think everything you saw model to describe the energy.
And besides, the opponent said that we think that the reporter didn't consider right elastic energy and potential energy, and we think that should be conserved. They would be better.
Okay. So if they're doing the experiment right, so where's the 90% of the energy goes?
We assume that they do your experiment, and their series goes right.
Okay, so where's the energy goes?
No, I mean, oh, so sorry.
That's okay.
We think they have 90% of difference because they have wrong setup that cause this energy loss.
And I think that first I didn't describe definitely height right, and also I think that their theory might be wrong. So their graph might have some problem.
So in your opinion?
Kinetic energy.
Okay.
I have a question for both of you, for all of you. Do you think the reported did observe the cobra wave? Because the question mentioned a wave from.
Yeah.
So how do you think about the reported's instrumental setup? Because we didn't see the movie, so we didn't find the wave from. So how do you think about this experience from the data? Opponent, can you explain your question? Do you think the reporter really observed the wave? The wave, cobra wave. Do I think that they observed the wave? No, I don't think so. They didn't mention.
In the reporter, from the problem statement, it said that the interlock in the chain is called cobra weave, not the wave.
But the wave from travel alone, the chain. So the weave is only the setup. So when you pick up the top stick, there should be a wave formed from this setup. So do you observe the wave? Do you observe the wave travels along the chain?
We have the video, but the video cannot be played.
How about review?
Basically, just like I say, there are kinds of way to release the popsicle, and in this case we can't observe it, but in another case we can observe the wavefront clearly.
Which parameter will be the most important part in this
Phenomenon.
Yeah.
I think it's the energy store and the property of the popsicles.
Yes, the energy stored in the sticks, because you are turning to another store, and you will definitely check it out.
So I just want to make sure, did you observe the wave? I didn't really hear the answer.
Yes.
You did. So that form just really travels along
Because it won't really like this.
we are unable to check.
I have another question for reporter. Do you think there's another way to create this wave, or this is the only one way?
We define the
Because the opponent and reviewer mentioned there are two methods or two ways they can
do it in this kind of,
Yeah. Is this the only one way, or there's another way it can be formed? Only one. Is this the only one?
it will be two, but I choose this one.
You choose this one. Do you observe the other one?
Yes.
So I have a question for you. So do you think that if you change in the lens, that will influence this phenomenon? And you can talk about present your opinion.
We change the length of the so the length will be smaller.
Yeah. So what did you observe? You change the square size, right? That means also the length of your train is changing.
But because we need to use the
So you use different amounts of
no same number.
yeah, same number. So what happens? I mean, when you change your square size.
The energy stored inside will be more.
More? Okay, so
I think if the stick number is long enough, and the overall wave will happen. So it doesn't matter to the overall wave.
If we do the cobra wave, do the popsicle in the same angle in this situation, if we change the number of popsicle, yes, it will change something, because if you have more number of popsicle, the potential energy will get higher and higher while time going.
So is there a boundary condition? I mean, you need to exceed certain lengths that you can observe such kind of behavior.
No.
No. So how about it?
Because if the length of the stick is because the number of the stick is too small, the wave can be altered. Because if I only use like 5 sticks to put a chain, the cobra wave can actually be seen. We observe.
Yeah. I think there was boundary condition.
Any more questions? Okay, so if there are no more questions, let's conclude. Okay, so for the reporter, five, 6, and 6. And for the opponent, 7, and 8. And for the reviewer, 6, 8778. Any comment? I have suggestion for the report that it should be more focused on the problem, the question, and you do not consider how the energy transfer or how you can build up the potential energy and how it transfers to the kinetic energy and the propagation of the wave. So you should think more about it.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's close this session. I'd like to thank all of you for your contribution.